Hi, my name is David Dowdy. I own Action Coach Lake Norman and your local business training and coaching organization. And I am thrilled to have Sam Goad on the call with us today, the Business Spotlight. And Sam owns Liquid Performance. And man, I'm excited to hear what you're going to share with us today, Sam. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and Liquid Performance, if you would?
Awesome. Yeah. Thanks for having me, David. Appreciate it. Yeah. So, like I said, I'm Sam Goat, owner of Liquid Performance as of April of this year. So, I'm a relatively new business owner. We're located in Rocky Mount, Virginia, but my home base is in the Charlotte area. So, I'm making some drives up throughout the week to support the business and go on this new venture. Um, so, I previously worked for the old owner of Liquid Performance for the last 2.5 years. And when the business came up for sale, last winter, in the early this year, I had an opportunity to purchase the business and jumped on it and finally closed the deal in April. So since then, we've been really implementing a lot of new processes, strategy in the business, really, learning a ton in this last 6 months. It's been super fun, but also comes with its own challenges, which I'm sure we'll talk more about today.
Yeah, probably
So
so.
yeah.
Yep.
But the business itself, so Liquid Performance, we've been in the automotive and marine industry, blending, formulating, and packaging chemicals for over 20 years. So that's really our bread and butter. We're best known for our fuel additives, both for gasoline engines and diesel engines. That's what folks all around the country call us and place orders for their race shops, their drag race teams. Um, that's really what we're known for. And we also do a lot of contract manufacturing. So if you're someone with a product idea, or a formulation or an industry you want to go into, but you don't have someone to blend or formulate or design a liquid product for you, that's where we can come in and provide some real value there. And then lastly, with my background and expertise, we're really taking a new angle into the Amazon e-commerce space. So that's a whole behemoth of a marketplace that everyone's trying to get their little piece of. So a lot of the opportunities we're providing for new customers is how we can support them in getting into Amazon, especially in that chemical liquid space. So
Awesome. Man, you got a lot of things going on. And
yeah.
I imagine it's a big shift from going from an employee role, and doesn't really matter what that role is as an employee, you're
Mhm.
still under the umbrella of somebody else and not necessarily having free reign. So now that you've been an owner for less than a year and at the
Mhm.
helm, what kind of things, what do you think you would do differently now, knowing what you know now after what, 6, 8, 10 months of
Yeah.
being an owner? Um,
Yeah.
what
No,
have
I
you
think that
learned?
the biggest things I've taken away is just like how much I've learned and developed in these past 6 months. Like I've always had a business interest and I always wanted to get into business. But before this moment and starting in April, I was taking like baby steps in that direction. So like I bought a rental property and like learned about accounting and cash flow and all those things. But it was a small property, just one of them with a friend of mine. And so like thinking about that opportunity, I spent 4 or 5 years doing that, but I don't think I really understood the concepts or how to like manage a business or manage a P&L until coming into here. And then quickly within 2 or 3 months, oh my gosh, I'm using vocabulary I'd never heard of before. I'm having discussions with folks that I, only dreamed about or kind of joked about talking to, getting loans from banks and working with all that business. So I think for me, it's all about how I wish I would have gone in a little more aggressively to start out because I had these dreams and ideas for a long time, but it's taken me probably 5 or 6 years of this being in the back of my mind to really take this leap. And now I'm just thinking, oh my gosh, imagine if have learned this much for the last 4 or 5 years. Where could I be, or where would I be in the future? So
Oh yeah. So did you grow up with that entrepreneurial spirit? Were you part of a small business, as a kid, grow up in
yeah,
that kind of environment, or how
yeah, no,
how'd you land with that interest to be a business owner?
yeah. I think for me, it really started out kind of grassroots of like buying and selling things on Facebook as a kid. Like I had a few friends that their parents were business owners, and they'd have an old beat up car, and we would like polish the whole thing, work on the engine, park it in our neighbor's driveway, and put a sign on it. And like someone came and bought it the very first day that it was on the lot, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing. Like I think that was like really setting that itch in me. And honestly, from that moment on, I've always just been trying different things and kind of had that entrepreneurial spirit. So I think that's where like the itch kind of started for me. But I never like really took action on that. I had an engineering background by schooling. So I had chemical engineering, worked a science job doing like formulation of new chemicals in a lab, working for a large corporation. And I always had the idea of maybe doing like an MBA or getting a master's in business administration, but it's always seemed kind of this big, like a lot of work and time and energy and sacrifice to go do this. So I just wasn't quite sure like how I would get my foothold into this, more business aspect away from the more science and engineering. But yeah, just gradually over time, and then opportunities like this come up. I feel like I'd been really waiting for something big to take the leap, and this was enough to get me over the edge.
Man, that's fantastic. And I know from personal experience, having an MBA, and you and I spoke. I've got a chemistry background as
Mhm.
well, and
Yeah.
the MBA, man, it doesn't prepare. It prepares you for corporate kind of
Yeah.
business, but it doesn't do a whole lot for the small business. At least back
Yeah.
when I was going through it.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
you get to learn a lot as a business owner, and you learn very, very quickly. So you mentioned some of the studies that you did and kind of prepping yourself with some knowledge, but what are some of the biggest learnings that you actually came through, picked up, moving into that ownership role? Anything
Yeah.
stand out?
Yeah, I think for me, just the people aspect is really the big one for me. So like I've
Mm,
led teams before, but very different demographic. I mean, the teams I used to lead were typically fresh college graduates with a business or an engineering degree. We're talking like very technical details about, hey, I need you to work on this project and get it across the finish line and make me a PowerPoint presentation. That's kind of the deliverables in the past. And now I'm moving to more of a workforce environment where I'm asking folks with, all sorts of backgrounds, ages mostly older than myself, asking them to do more manual labor, fix issues that they may work on this machine for 20 years, but I'm asking them to do something totally differently they never tried before. So I think for me, it's really been around how do you build that trust with the individuals? How do you build that rapport with them? And ultimately, earning that respect and credibility that you don't get that when you walk in day one as a new owner. You have to build that.
right.
You're especially someone like myself, where I interacted with these folks much face to face. My previous role was remote, so even though we had been working together for 2.5 years, they may have seen me one time ever before.
Oh,
Uh,
wow.
so when I walk in and start switching things around and saying, "Hey, forget the way you've done it for 10 years," how do you build that? Like I said, trust and credibility to give it a try. And ultimately, we've had good success, but it hasn't been, yes, sir, of course, I'll change everything right away. It's a lot of that. How do you kind of dance around these habits and rituals that have been around for a long time?
Oh yeah, and too when you come in without um, you know without some of the gray hair or the seasoned look that visually says, "Hey,
Hmm.
I know what I'm doing." Kind of thing.
Hmm.
You've got to earn that respect as well.
Yeah, exactly.
Um, so there's a lot of misconceptions. Everybody knows how glorious it is to be a business owner,
Hmm.
and we have all sorts of freedoms and get to make a ton of money and that kind of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions. What are some of
yeah,
those that you may have had coming in, and what have you learned in regard to those in
yeah.
that reset?
Yeah, that's a good question. I think for me, I'll share some about like misconceptions I had before I got here myself, and then maybe what's changed and what I
Okay.
can expose for other
Right.
people. I think for me, the big one, what kind of held me back from something like this in the past was like, oh, if you're a business owner, you have to have, like I said, 20 years experience. I have to have a whole bunch of money in the bank. I have to have, safety net A, B, C, and D, all these things. And I think for me, that's kind of been surprising to me is like, it's really if you can show your investors or a bank that's willing to give you a loan, or the customers of your business that you're committed to this and that you're willing to work for them and put in the time and energy. Like people are here to support you. They want to be along with you on your journey, and growing the business with you. So I think that's for me is like, hey, I don't have to be the guy with the big pocketbook. I can be the guy that's going to do the right thing, be honest and trustworthy partner. And that's really something for me that kind of opened the door to going into the business world. So I think that was one of the biggest misconceptions that slowed me down for a lot of years, but I'm now realizing that's not the case. Then I would say other misconceptions about the business, that people think about is that you have to be an expert in the whole category of things. Like everything that someone does at your business, you need to know how to do it yourself. And I
Uh,
think for me, I've learned I need to be able to have an intelligent conversation about it. I need to show that I'm willing to get my hands dirty when I need to be. but I don't have to be the expert on every aspect of the business. And I know that's a sentiment I hear very frequently of like, you can't really tell me what to do or how to help with this because you don't know this machine, or you weren't here 10 years ago when we figured this out. And so I think overcoming that misconception of, if I can surround myself with the right people, I can show myself as someone who's like willing to learn or curious. I
Mm,
can have people around me do a lot of that expertise and work to add value to the business that way. So
man, that's great. That's
yeah.
great. So, I wanted to ask what you might attribute some of the growth. I mean, you've had a lot of personal growth, and I'm trusting the
Hmm.
business is doing well as you're getting involved in some new things as well. So
Yeah.
what are some of those drivers that you think have really impacted your own growth and successes?
Yeah. For me, I mean, the biggest one I always come back to for folks is like curiosity is the biggest thing. I think my wife, my family, my friends will all tell you I will ask like a million questions until they're like, "Hey, Sam, just like stop talking to me. Like, read a book about it. Stop asking." So I think for me, it's really that like curiosity. I'm always wanting to learn something new. I can find even the most mundane things to be, fascinating if you can find the right person to talk to about it, or someone that has an interesting story and connection to your life. So I think for me, it's that curiosity piece. And I like try my best to like surround myself with that. I think about the phrase often of like, you are the five people you surround yourself with. I don't know if you've heard of that one.
Yep. Yep.
I even like talk to my wife about it. I'm like, hey, you're the five people you like around. You're the five podcasts you're listening to regularly. You're the last five books you've read. Like, I'm really just trying to surround myself in this ecosystem. And I think that's been a huge just growth for me of like the moment I kind of take every aspect of my life and add it to the goal I have, which right now is, growing this business, building a good
Mhm.
set of foundations and principles for all of us here at Liquor Performance. I think that's when I really get this momentum and things start to add together nicely.
Well,
So
that's as you were talking about your curiosity,
yeah.
that certainly ties into your engineering background of just
Hmm.
figure stuff out. I wonder why. I wonder how
Yeah.
that works, kind of thing. So leads
Yeah.
to a lot of questions. So
Yeah.
Sam, you mentioned that your operation is actually in Rocky Mount, Virginia, but you
Correct.
live in the Charlotte market. So,
Hmm.
I don't know how long of a commute that is. You might could speak to that, but it's
Yeah.
got to create some challenges from a work-life balance kind of thing and managing priorities, that kind of thing. So curious what you've experienced, how you manage that and prioritize, if you do. I mean,
Yeah.
we all go through seasons. So,
Yeah. You're definitely reading my mind there, because I think I will be the first to admit I have not nailed that one down. I often say like I'm in a world of imbalance right now. Like, I'm definitely
mm,
all in on the business and probably not spending as much time on my personal life as I typically have in the past or would like to. Um, but with that, I think I'm recognizing that, and as you said, it's a season of life for me. To me, it feels like, hey, 1 to 2 years of this really kind of tipping the scale in one direction versus the other, to me hopefully
mhm.
leads to a life where the rest of my life down the road can be a balance in the other direction, or maybe even skewed toward the other side. So for me, I'm doing my best in that, trying to keep my health good. I'm exercising every day, trying to get out of the office as much as I can. I visit back to Charlotte to visit my wife, every other weekend or so, and she's coming up to visit me as well. So I think that really, like, those are those moments that really keep your sanity and kind of excitement about things. But no, I admittedly don't have a whole lot of balance on that. Right now I'm driving up Monday mornings before work, so I'm leaving home. It's a 2.5 hour drive, so I'm leaving home around 4:30 or 5 on Mondays. I get up to the office, stay up here in Virginia for the week, and then we work half day Fridays, so heading back home on Friday afternoons to catch dinner back in Charlotte. So yeah.
I can tell you it works a lot better when you're a young man than when you get a little older. So
Yes, yes,
good.
definitely. And I will say too, my wife and I, we before this, we were kind of the opposite of the spectrum. We both had full remote jobs. We worked around the country. We would travel a lot around the world. We'd go to Mexico and work for 3 or 4 weeks. So we had our season of life that was a bit on the other side of that scale. And so now we're kind of balancing that out with this other type where I'm going to the office,
Nice,
every single day during the week. So
nice,
yeah.
nice. So you've got a bit of a team, um,
Mhm.
and you already referenced the difference in the team that you kind of worked with previously, and just the nature of the beast there. So, what kind of qualities are you looking for now as you add to your team? Qualities, characteristics of really, really strong employees to help you
Yeah.
accomplish your goals.
Yeah. No, I've tried my best to kind of narrow it down. I'm used to in a world where you have, 8 success factors and those have 3 sub-bullet points. And I've tried to really simplify that for the team here of like,
Mhm.
I talk about 2 things I care about. It's like one is like a sense of urgency. It's like, hey, like we're action oriented. We're here to get things done. I'm not sitting around waiting for someone to tell me what to do. I'm always trying to find the next thing. So I think that's one thing I really, preach about a lot of like no idle hands. When we're at work here, we're doing our best work. We're staying busy and we can,
Mhm.
go home after a long day and say, hey, I did my best, put in my time. So that's really one piece of the puzzle there. And then the second one is a sense of like accountability and ownership. I think they're a nice tension with each other, moving with urgency, but also making sure you're accountable. It's like that, supports quality and efficiency and all those things. So I think for me, between those two, that's really what I try to focus on with my team. And when we're looking for new folks to hire, those are the 2 things I'm really pushing on and asking for examples of to making sure they're coming to hit the ground running. So,
And that's great. You get those 2 things, and I'm sure you can have some successes with anybody that comes on board as well. So this
mhm.
is Sam. This has been fantastic. I love the energy. I love the positivity, and you got a great future ahead of you. So, what other words, as we kind of wrap up, what other words of advice or wisdom might you offer somebody else that's either in the throes of business right now, looking
Mhm.
to get to the next level, or potential, future business owner?
Yeah.
What do you
Yeah.
got?
It's good. I think for me, the 2 things I'll keep with the one for like the potential future business owner is, take the leap. That's the one I always say. I think action over certainty is where I would put it maybe the most. Like if you're uncertain about something, take the leap and you'll learn a lot more by doing it than you will about thinking about it. So I think that's the one thing for me. If like that's the advice I try to stick to, whether it's taking this big leap in the business or having that hard conversation with an employee that I've been pushing off for 2 weeks. I'm like, do the thing, stop thinking about how you're going to get the message across, to have the conversation. And that's just 10 times more valuable than thinking about it and planning for the next thing. So I
And
think
would it
that's,
would it be okay if I use that action over certainty? I mean, it kind of
oh,
plays into my business as well. So
yeah, no, go for it. I can't claim that I came up with it myself. I'm not even sure who to attribute it to, but yeah, that's when I need to print out and put on my wall myself because I it comes up, almost every single week, that phrase to motivate me to do the big thing. So
that's gold right there.
yeah.
Yeah, I appreciate that. And if somebody wants to reach out to you personally or to Liquid Performance, what's the best way to learn more about your company and potentially get in touch?
Yeah, definitely. So for the business, either like LinkedIn or email is probably the best. So Sam Goad on LinkedIn, I'm pretty active there, responding to folks' message, whether it be like SMB community or customers. And then if you want to email directly about something Liquid Performance or, being a customer or growing your business with us, you can just do sam@liquidperformance.com. So
Fantastic. Well, Sam, again, thanks so much for being on the Business Spotlight. Enjoyed talking with you and hearing about your story, and really, really appreciate you sharing some of your words of wisdom with the small business community around the
yeah,
Charlotte region. All right.
yeah, awesome. Thanks, Dave. This was a blast. It was super fun to have the conversation. Appreciate
Good
it.
deal. All the best to you.
Yeah, thanks. You too. Bye.